Welcome to Nava Podcast with Leah Cardenas and Stella Pashos.
Let's explore the true essence of Nava.
Nava embodies the concept of beauty in all its forms. It represents the inner radiance that each woman possesses and the unique qualities that make her truly remarkable.
Our mission is to share the stories of inspiring women who are making their mark in the areas of fashion, health, lifestyle, and family. Our aim is to curate meaningful conversations where the journeys and experiences of our guests can inspire you in your own life.
We started this podcast to create a space where everyone can feel beautiful, inspired, and empowered.
Nava is not just a podcast, it's a celebration of the incredible women who have shaped our lives and the countless others who are yet to share their stories.
We can't wait for you to join us. Get ready to dive into the vibrant world of social media as we sit down with the dynamic Gemma in this episode of Nava Podcast. A proud mum, tech sales superstar, and now a social media maven, Jenna brings a unique blend of experience to the table. We'll chat with Gemma about her journey through the fast-paced tech sales landscape and how she navigated the twists and turns of this competitive industry. Expect some candid discussions on setting goals, the importance of self-care, and the ever-evolving world of social media management. With Gemma's infectious energy and a wealth of knowledge, this episode promises to be both entertaining and enlightening. So grab your favorite drink, kick back, and get ready for a dose of style, savvy, and laughter as we explore Gemma's world on Nava Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nava Podcast. My name's Stella, and as always, I'm here with Leah Cardenas.
Hello, everyone.
And today we have the beautiful Gemma joining us.
Hello, everyone. This is my first time on a podcast. I'm excited.
We love it. Do you want to start by telling us a little bit about yourself, Gemma?
Sure. I'm about myself. First and foremost, I am. What can I say? A risk taker, but also a careful one. Love risk. But I have to have a backup, and that means I have to have A to D backup. So I'm that person since I was young because I am the eldest of 4 kids and I'm the only girl. So there's a lot of I feel anyway, responsibilities. So that's what I am.
Lovely. Well, you're also a lot more than that. You're a mum.
Yes,
you're a tech sales superstar. And you've navigated the twists and turns of being in such a competitive industry, which we'll jump into. But before we do, we're going to do 90 seconds with Gemma.
Yep.
And Leah's going to kick us off.
All right. You ready, Gemma?
I'm ready.
How old are you?
43.
Which city do you live in?
Melbourne.
Where did you grow up?
The Philippines.
What is your drink order of choice?
Margarita, spicy.
Do you have any pets?
No, I have 3 kids.
I love how you
I understand. My favorite question, if you were a flavor of ice cream, what would you be?
Question. I'll probably be something sweet, like chocolate, but put a little bit of chili and a little bit of strawberry and nuts.
I like it.
Yeah.
What is one word to describe yourself?
One word. Risk taker with a dash.
The hyphen.
Introvert or extrovert?
Introvert.
Heels, flats, or sneakers?
Flats.
Pet peeve?
Chaos.
And last one, guilty pleasure.
Oh, a relaxing massage per day.
Per day.
Per day.
That would be nice.
That'd be so nice.
All right, beautiful. That's a wrap. All right, we'll jump into the conversation.
Yeah.
So we've spoken a little bit about risk taking. Do you want to take us back to where that began? Because I know that your journey, you said you grew up in the Philippines and I know that your journey starts there. So do you want to take us through what risk means to you?
First and foremost, I always have a goal. And the way that I do risk is I'm quite focused. So I know what I need to do to reach that goal. And I will do everything that I can to be able to reach that goal. So there are times that, I have to take risk. An example in this is so I don't really grow up with, rich parents. We're normal. They're teachers back in the Philippines, both of them. So that means they're government teachers as well. So that means they have to, put us all universities and schools in a teacher's salary. And that's not huge. When it comes to that, the only thing that my parents does every time is finish your education. You can do anything as long as you finish your education. So no boyfriend, nothing of that nature until you finished university. And I think for me, that was my first goal, to finish my degree. And yes, I did finish statistics, Bachelor in Science and Statistics back in the Philippines. And then started looking for a job. I didn't really want to, go in a job as a statistician, but so I avoided that first and foremost. And then I went to this job where I have to travel. And when it comes to traveling back in the Philippines, that means you have to take the bus. So I'm part of a retail. So I have to go visit all of the retail store of this company. And that means I have to work until like 12 a.m., then wake up at 4 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
Monday to Saturday. That was my first job, right? And then, I went to a few more jobs. But for me, I think the biggest risk that I did, I was in this job back in the Philippines. Good job, actually, great opportunities, but I know what I want. What I want is to have an experience to work overseas, and being a citizen of a third world country, that's not easy for us.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're coming from the Philippines. Majority of the people who's coming out of the Philippines to work overseas previously, like during my time, you're either a nurse, right? Or if you're a male, an engineer, you go to Middle East. A lot of them did. Or a domestic helper. Someone who, help. I don't know if you know domestic helper, but those are the people who help you clean your house, take care of your kids, all of that. So I have this job, but then Singapore at the time opened up where they gave visas to certain universities in the Philippines to go there for a year and look for a job. So I left my job. Good job. And I was like, I'm going to Singapore for a month because that's the only budget that I have. So I have $300 in my pocket. Bought my ticket, not with the $300, that's for allowance. And a medium-sized luggage, went to Singapore, told my boss, hey, I'm resigning. Going to Singapore. And then the option B there is, I know that if I don't find a job, and I only gave myself a month, I'm quite strict with that because my budget won't allow for anything and I can't ask for money from my parents, right? I actually loaned that from the bank. So yeah, I went to Singapore, and then before the month is up, someone finally offered me. This is like, I'm supposed to leave Monday of that week. The offer came Friday, and I remember this distinctly because I'm close to crying because I don't want to go back, right? I feel like a failure. But yeah, at 4:55 in the afternoon, I got a call that said, you finally got a job. So yeah, for me, that's a calculated risk because I have a really good job. Went to Singapore because that was my goal, to find a job overseas. I have to do it, or else, there's no more perfect time. I was single, I don't have family yet, but I'm also getting older, so it's going to be harder. And I found a job, and I stayed in Singapore for 2 years and had a great career after that.
So how old were you when you left the Philippines?
I was 28.
We're now in Australia. Talk to us a little bit about how you then transferred from Singapore to Australia, and maybe a bit about the different fields you worked in.
Of course. So in Singapore, I actually applied for a search engine manager. So if for your listeners who doesn't know search engine managers, we do search like Google, Baidu, Bing during that time. I don't know if anyone remembers, and we do advertising there.
Yeah.
So I worked in a media agency. This was actually my first marketing role ever. Never done that role. They hired me because apparently I'm really good at numbers. So and Excel. And when you're doing digital marketing, you need all of that because there's during that time there's really no tools except going to Google and actually implementing all of that, right? I took a job as a search engine paid advertising manager, worked with a few big global companies, stayed with them for a couple of years. And then Facebook, this is 2010, came to Singapore, and I applied, and I was the seventh employee in the Singapore office. And there's just, I think 10 of us when I first started. And it's still a startup. It's not public yet. It's the most exciting career that I've ever had because everyone is, excited. They're making impact. People started using Facebook. So my job there is to what we call ad operations, is to implement all of the ads directly to one of our platforms and start advertising on Facebook. And by the way, during this time, Facebook is just a desktop app or desktop website, not even an app. I don't think iPhone is a big thing during that time. The question was, how did I move to Australia? So again, that's another goal for me, is to migrate to Australia. I wasn't looking at US. I wasn't looking at the UK. I want to go and live in Australia because I've heard so many beautiful things about Australia. And also, it's closer to home. It's closer to the Philippines, closer to Asia. And and I met a lot of people, actually Australians in Singapore, and worked with a lot of them. And I've always loved working closely with them. So when the Sydney office opened up, they already opened. They were the first APAC country. But when they started, opening up my role at that time, she's client solutions manager, I moved. I requested for a move. And there's no mobility yet during that time at Facebook. But they let me apply for the job because you still have to apply, and then move to Sydney for a year, and then move. I like Melbourne better. So the reason why is I have family here. My husband has family here, and we don't really have family in Sydney, and we have a 1-year-old there, so we need a lot of support in a new country with a baby, and I'm the only one working at the time as well. So we moved to Melbourne, and I'm still here.
I feel like we need to just take a moment because Leah and I feel we both paused. We were so taken aback from your story. It was really it pulled on the heartstrings because for us in Melbourne, I feel like we've grown up. If we change jobs, it's like, cool. You really put it all on the line to leave a secure job when already the avenues for you, from what you described, were a nurse. Men had their own pathway, and then your avenues were really limited. And then you left a secure job and took that risk because you had that goal in mind and you were willing to do anything for it. And wow, we just need to take a moment for that.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think one of the things probably also, desperation. I want to make something for myself, and I, as much as possible, don't depend on people, right? So I think a goal and a desperation to reach that goal actually really pushed me forward. I there's also, I guess, luck associated with it, but it's also a lot of work, right? So the luck probably associated with it is it's just the right timing of having that media agency experience and having that digital marketing experience before Facebook came in. Yeah, I think just being focused on what you want and get it.
So I want to know a little bit about how, in my naivety, how you can incorporate your degree in statistics with this area in marketing. How did the two connect, if at all?
It does connect. Like, it's not direct, being a statistician, right? Where you do a lot of like probabilities and surveys and stuff. But for as a digital marketer, all you see, especially during that time where all you see are numbers like cost per, million impressions, cost per click, what's the ROI, like all numbers, right? Like how many impressions, how many reach. Okay, this campaign has this campaign, and you have to report that. You have to understand these numbers. I remember because it was my first ever job, and there's so many like, what do you call that? The CPC, CPM. So like, what's the general? Like all of the shortcuts. What do you call that?
Abbreviations?
Yes, all of that. I don't like. There's formula for each one. What's the cost per click? The formula is.
Oh, that's what CPC is.
Yes, cost per click is a CPC. Cost per click. So how much you've spent on your paid advertising divided by how much clicks you get. What's cost per impression? Like there's so many. Each of them will have a formula, right? And I remember my train ride to my to my immediate agency job from where I lived in Singapore, it's like around 45 minutes, and I have this notes like college or university all over again, where I have this like notes of all the formula, and I keep reviewing and memorizing all of those formula and understanding what they are during the train ride, and then do all of the reports. So I was doing all of the reports in an Excel, automating all of those so that I don't have to calculate it. Like I did all the automations. I did all of the formula and stuff on our Excel. That when I actually left the media agency, I'm really good. I gave them a book of my Excel tool or formulas that I've written, and all the formula per cell, just in case something breaks or someone erased something, they can recreate it. Gave it to my then manager, and I was like, this is how you'll do it. Because she's panicking that I'm the only one who knows what goes around the back end of that reporting that everyone was already using at that time.
Wow, I can't even imagine your brain. Numbers just go over my head. My husband's an accountant, so he deals with all of that kind of thing. But it's just a different way of thinking, isn't it, Stella?
I actually did a Bachelor of Science with, and I did statistics as well. And I feel like I remember it. And when you said before, like you didn't want to go down that path of becoming a statistician, I can totally relate to that, because it was like, it's an addictive subject. When you're good at it, you're like really good at it. But I freaking hated statistics. So, but what I can see for sure is how knowledge in numbers, and especially in statistics, and marries well with the need for that in marketing, and where that gap would be with marketing employees.
Yeah, and also like, because now like digital marketing is a huge thing now, right? It's not just search engine anymore. There's social. There are also blogs, forums. Like even the video on demand, those are all digital marketings, right? Like the streams, like Spotify, like they have those, all of those ads are all digital marketing. Whatever metrics that they're going to tell you, you have to sell that, and you have to make someone believe in it. But before you can make someone believe in it, and I guess this is where my sales trajectory came in, because it actually started with the media agency, because I have to present to the customer like what campaign, what or why they got, like what are the KPIs or key performance indicators, and then report them. But before you can report them, there's a lot of like, if you think about it, during that time, a lot of the marketers are not yet digitally savvy. It's just starting, right? Like websites, yes, but a lot of that budget is still not there. It's all on TV, it's all on radio, it's all on print. So you have to explain what those, metrics are, and you have to make them believe. But in order for you to make them believe, you have to understand what those are.
Hence the Bible of formulas on the train.
Hence the Bible of formulas, and then align it with what they know, which is, TV, for example, or radio. How are they calculating, the metrics that they have there, align it with that, and then explain it.
So for those that don't know, can you take us back and explain, we can start with maybe the importance of search engines, and then could you define just really simply like what impressions are, what clicks mean to businesses, just really simplifying it for us?
Yeah. So it's been a while, but so search engines are your Googles. If you're in China, the Baidu. If you're in Korea, Nava, Kakao Talk. If you're in Amazon right now, I know everyone's familiar with Amazon, of course, and Google. When you're searching for a product, those search bars are actually search engines. And then once you search for something, and you can try it at home, for the listeners, if you search for something, the first thing that will come out in Google are the sponsored, and those are the ads, right? So the first thing that you will see is, okay, how many people have you reached? So they measure that, because then, of course, they'll know what are the ads that are appearing on your screen. So they know how many people you've reached. So that's reach, how many people. And right now, a lot of those calculations are, okay, I don't want to just know people, but now because a lot of websites has asked you to log in, they will know if it's unique reach. Stella is one reach, Leia is one reach, Gemma is one reach. So that's reach. And then impression is, if you think about it, if you keep Googling those same, and it keeps that same ads keeps appearing, you're still Stella, you're still one reach. But how many impressions or how many views have you done for that ad? So maybe 10. So now you have 10 impressions. Maybe Leia also saw that ad now, 20 times. So that's 20 impressions, so etc. So now those are impressions. Cost per click is if you actually click on the ad and not the organic. So there's two there. There's ads, the paid one, and then organic usually comes below that, of course. If you click on the ad, that's one click. If you click again, that's two clicks. Per click is paid, like your budget or how much you've spent as an advertiser, divided by how many clicks you've got. So previously, that's a good indication that people are going to your website, or good indication that your ad is resonating well with your customers, because they're clicking on it. And then suddenly, tracking is also there. Which means that now if you buy something after you click on it, that's now sales.
From your experience, do you have any tips for businesses to increase their reach, their impressions, how to come up on Google search engine without paying for the ad? Because as many times as I type in Nava podcast, it's still not on the first page.
Well, the cheapest way, probably Google Ads right now, and it's been a while since I did this, advertising campaigns, right? Previously, the cheapest way is, of course, to buy your own keyword, which means Nava, for example, like not the, generic keywords like
Podcast. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a generic keyword. That's expensive because a lot of people will probably, a lot of podcasts, your competitors will probably be buying it. So that's expensive.
So you buy the word.
Yeah, you buy.
Wow.
And I remember this, like I'm skipping kind of your timeline a little bit, but when we worked together at Salesforce, our goal was to help marketing teams with their strategies, moving away from Google search engines or search engines in general, and personalizing customers' experiences through their websites, through marketing emails and SMS, and really personalizing messages, right place, right person, right time. Would you say that's still important now?
Very, very relevant. Because if you think about it, it's not just Google anymore. So the way that you click is, well, is it personalized to my needs? Right? If I'm searching for gift and then your podcast website suddenly appears, that's not personalized. But if I'm, typing for, I want a podcast that, is based in Melbourne, and then your podcast appears, then that's very personalized. But not just in search engines, like social. If you think about it, like people know more about sponsors ad now. They're quite quick now to identify if a post in Instagram or Pinterest or Facebook is an ad, right? Like previously, I remember when you're first putting ads on newsfeed on Facebook on your mobile, not a lot of people actually know that it is a sponsored ad, right? But in order for you to get, like, I'll give you an example. Like you scroll fast, and this has been tested before where, yes, on Facebook or on our mobile, we scroll fast, but because we are focused on it, we actually get more. So there's this like 3-second, I think, or 1 second test where they show a photo, like everyone's looking at it, and then they remove it, describe it. And people can describe it. So it doesn't take a lot for people to see what you're, showing to them if they're on their mobile, compared to if you're watching, for example, a TV, or, you saw a out of home posters. Because there's so many distractions around. You're not focused on it. You probably won't remember that, right? But on mobile, it is. But now it's not just being viewed, or it's not just impression anymore. It's, do I get you? So the competition now, or the target now, is, can I get you to stop scrolling? Can I interest you? And if you think about it, you stop scrolling if you see something interesting, right? And what's interesting to you might not be, or to Stella might not be interesting to Leah. So all of these algorithm works to understand what you want. But as a marketer, now it's up to me to make sure that I know something about you based on the things that you are doing, not just on websites. But there's so much information, and we all know that, like, everything is being tracked online, wherever you are, on your app, on your phone, etc. Right? Yes, sometimes you don't accept all of those tracking, but you're already being tracked by probably another thing. So as a marketer, you need to get those data. There's so much data out there. Like where I'm working right now, we do understand, like, consumers, right? So it's a consumer intelligence platform where you need to understand what they're talking about, what's resonating, because what's resonating with a lot of users or a lot of people is probably what's resonating with your target audience. So looking at the specific audience and then aligning your messages there can get people to stop scrolling.
So what would be an example of that, if you wouldn't mind sharing?
Example of what? Sorry, Stella.
Of an example, maybe working with one of your customers on that exact topic of getting someone to stop scrolling.
you have to know. So first and foremost, what's your product? Do you have a niche? Right? And a lot of the things that are happening now is that one, what are some of the trends? People believe in influencers, actually, but it's not just influencers. It's not the macro influencers like the celebrities, the well-known, influencers out there, but what they trust. And this has been also one of the studies, is that they actually trust people who are more or less micro to nano influencers. So these influencers have what we call tribes. So they're very specific on what they post. So, for example, I'm following one of the ladies on Instagram who posts a lot about like what she buys in Kmart.
Yeah.
I'm probably following one of them. And for me, it's just how she make it look like, how she displays it in her home. So she does a lot of like home products, Kmart, and then she arranged that in a certain way where it looks so expensive, and I like that. So I'm part of her tribe. She doesn't have a lot of followers. I think she only have like 10,000 followers or something like that. That's micro influencer. But if I see something that she posts that actually that works well with my house, I'll buy it. Right? I trust her. And I remember actually 3 weeks ago, I was looking at this Bondi Boosts. Probably not mention any product, but one of them. So one of the people that I was following on Instagram, again, not a big influencer, started using it. I was like, oh, it's actually really good. Because
is it the blow wave brush or like the product?
The blow wave.
Yeah.
So when I first saw their ad, I was like, oh, so much. Like, I don't actually believe that it's gonna work. Because for me, it's not. I haven't heard any one of my friends who has been using it, and then she posted it, and I don't know her, but I believe her. So yeah, now I'm considering buying one. I just need a budget.
I think that's I think that topic of micro influencers has come up with one of our other guests, Sarah, who has a market in Melbourne, and we were talking about exactly what you're saying now. The engagement from micro influencers and the trust and loyalty from followers is really quite unbelievable, because I'm the same. If I follow, it might be, I think there's a girl called Teresa that does Amazon favorites, and I'm obsessed. If she posts one more acrylic thing, my house is going to be like an acrylic museum. But I will buy it because I'm a loyal follower. And it's the same with the enterprise businesses that we used to work with. They might have 20 million contacts in their database, but if they only have 3 million engaged, I guess that's the gap that our role was to fill, was to how do you engage those 17 million subscribers or contacts that you haven't personalized a message to just yet with your niche, with your personal offering, and personalizing it in a way that's relevant for them to engage with. It's very interesting.
It is, because it's even like, look, that's influencer marketing, right? But even if you're a big brand, and I'll mention one, I won't mention the brand, but it's an alcohol brand that I'm currently working with, and they have to have like a vision for their socials, right? And if you have that, and if you don't, like if you have a voice, actually that's what they use. You have to have a voice, a certain voice in Instagram, and you have to be consistent, or in not just Instagram, in social, and you have to be consistent, right? Like probably a good example that I can mention is Jetstar. Have you ever seen any posts from Jetstar on your Facebook? The voice of Jetstar, and check it out on Facebook, is an intern. That's what he calls himself, like, and a very sarcastic intern, and very disrespectful one. But it works. People are actually engaging with it. And the funny thing is, even the people who are like negatively commenting just get down the comments because the people are commenting more about how much fun they're having with their social media strategist, which is
Wow.
the intern. He'll post something like, "Oh, my manager said that." Or one of the new interns said that we're going to have a sale next Friday. I threw his notebook or something, and then my manager said we have. So here you go. Like
That's
one of those, like,
crazy.
just one of those, yeah, voices, and be consistent with it, even if it has a big brand. You'll uh, you'll be able to get engagement.
It's hard though today, like with cancel culture and things like that. I think a lot of brands and people are a little bit scared about what they can say and what they can talk about online as well.
Yes, yes, they are, and I think there's a fine balance between that, and I guess it's also being consistent about it. Like, can you imagine, like, a bank having that intern voice?
Mm.
I just found one of his posts and he's like, I
Yeah.
miss the days of MySpace where I could publicly rank my friends. Speaking of which, we've got a flyer friend for free. Sell tomorrow. Perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
you couldn't imagine a bank doing
can
that.
you imagine back? So it needs to be consistent with your message, with your company's, vision, or I guess mission and goals as well.
We'll be back.
After a short break.
If you haven't already heard of Strider, they are the revolutionary insoles featured in this season's Shark Tank.
Strider is the home of Happy Feet. Their mission is to empower you to move at your best, pain-free. To help you take charge of your life and health from the feet up, Strider are offering Nava listeners an exclusive 10% off with code NAVA. That's Nava at checkout.
Now let's get back to the conversation.
What's your experience with, I'm not sure if you have insights into this, but your thoughts on social media posting consistency and working out a way to find that engagement if you feel like you're posting and you're not really seeing anything?
Oh, that's hard. I actually don't know about, like, a lot about, like, social media algorithms anymore.
Yeah.
But from what I have seen is videos, reels has a higher, apparently, priority.
Mm.
We are pushing it, but you have to, like, as a marketer, you have to read what are the focus areas of each of these platforms that you want to advertise on or you're on, right? So and you would be able to understand quite quickly how it works, because when TikTok started blowing up globally, you'll see, like, you know Instagram came in. I was like, okay, we'll have stories, Snapchat, and then Reels, and then they've prioritized that. I think from what I've noticed, I see more Reels now than any of the images.
Yeah.
And I've tested it on my personal profile too. Like, when I post Reels, I get more, engagement, heart. And this is just my personal profile, just my friends. I have like 500, I think, followers. Um, but yeah, and then if I post any of the photos, you get a little bit, but not as much as the Reels.
The whole tech world and marketing and clicks, it's a lot. I can see that as a teacher, there'll be a lot more jobs in that space, and even different jobs that currently exist, I think, especially with the introduction of AI as well. And just thinking back to when I used to teach media and thinking about all the different theories about how we interact with media and marketing, it's definitely moving more towards that tailored approach, I think, as to what it was before, especially thinking about, filter bubbles and cookies and parasocial relationships and all those kinds of things you've started to talk about. Yeah, I think it's definitely heading more towards that area now.
Yeah, no, definitely. And they have to do that. Yeah, at the end of the day. And I think that's why I love digital marketing, because it's such a dynamic, constantly changing. You have to be on your toes all the time, because there's a lot of changes. So I guess one of the things that are actually just starting here in Australia, which has been in Asia, actually, for close to, I think, 10 years now, is social commerce. We've been talking about social commerce for a long time in Asia, and now it's being talked about. Well, actually, I think it started 2021. Much more globally, and not a whispered thing anymore. It's not very very Asia focused anymore. And I remember when I was at Facebook, I was actually my last job at Facebook is actually head of partnerships for new ecosystems. And what that means is, getting partners that Facebook can work with to help more of our customers, stick to Facebook, and how they can manage it properly, especially because some of them will have different pages that they're managing, especially media agencies, for example. How can they do this? And then Messenger came in, WhatsApp came in, and other different, messaging platform. If you've been in Asia, like Thailand, the Philippines, Vietnam, they have so much more chat, messaging platform.
I only know of WeChat.
Yeah, so it's not just Facebook Messenger, WeChat, Line, Kakao, Nava. All of those are actually, they do have messaging platform. And then we also have, WhatsApp. Like, people are actually selling, if you can imagine in Asia, iPhone is expensive, right? A lot of those countries are actually third world countries, like in the Philippines. So if you go farther out from Manila in the Philippines, a lot of the people are actually using a smartphone, but not as smart, because internet is quite slow. Also, it's expensive to have a postpaid plan, telco postpaid plan. So they have this like prepaid. A lot of people actually do use prepaid. So that means limited, 5G or 4G or 3G even. So a lot of these messaging platforms will actually make it easier for them, or even cheaper for them to message their friends. And so because of that, a lot of the sellers, it started with small and medium businesses, a lot of the sellers started selling on these messaging platforms where they create groups, etc. Now, they like that. Like, people like that because it's very personalized. I ask, okay, do you have this size? Yes, I have. Can you send this? And how about this color? Blah, blah, blah. How is the stitch? I can actually talk to people before I buy it, even if I don't see it. And they like that. They like that personalized approach. And I think that's when all of these, in my mind, all of these personalized approach, actually grew, because it's not just messaging. Now, that's very one-on-one. How do we do this personalized approach at scale is the question. And that's how you have to understand who are your, audience segment, what do they actually follow, what do they like, are they sneakerheads, are the sneakers like, if that's a big thing again, like, okay, are they into this type of music, are they, like, all of that you have to understand, and then align your messaging for each one, but at scale, and for each of the platforms that you are in.
I think social commerce is really cool. For those that don't know, obviously social commerce is selling on platforms through Instagram, Facebook, any social platform that businesses can utilize and integrate with to complete a transaction. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to proceed, put items in my cart, and if it hasn't known my credit card details, I do not proceed, because I'm like, this isn't too hard. I'm not following through. But so it's a really important and relevant I guess, milestone for businesses to be implementing that when and where they can.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it is a little bit easier here as well, because you do have the credit card. You do have the card.
I'm not getting up off my couch to get it.
Yeah, but in the Philippines, you don't.
That's right. Personalized, tailored messages and approaches.
It's scary, though. I think people like personalized marketing and messaging, but then I think we're still in a state where people are a bit afraid of it and what it is that it's tracking. I think consumers today are understanding more that things are tracked and they like it, but I think sometimes they're also a bit afraid.
They are. There's actually a study that says 80% of consumers actually didn't know, and it's fine being tracked. They do know, and they
Yeah.
are fine being tracked, but it's equity, right? I know you're tracking me. I will know. Like everyone knows that you're tracking, like, that we're all being tracked, right? But now give me something a personalized, like, if I go to Amazon, if I go to their home, like, website, they should show me what I want before I even know it. That's the expectation now.
Mm.
That's what we call personalization. Because, yeah, Amazon, you're tracking me, but my expectation as a customized that, a personalized service. It's like,
Yeah, you should offer me what I like before I even know that I like that and want it.
Yeah, I need that dress that I've been trying to search for the last 2 weeks. I haven't found it yet.
image search it.
Reverse Google image. It's the best. Let's move on and I'd love to talk about your family dynamic.
Mm.
I know in this day and age, it's very typical for the man, or things are changing, which is nice to see, but traditionally the man is the breadwinner and supports the family. But in your household, that looks a little bit different. And it's really nice to see that it's becoming more and more common in more households.
Yeah. It's actually not very common in the Philippines. So I guess it does help that we're not there when we got married. Well, we got married there, but we lived in Singapore after that, and then Australia. But yeah, so I am the main breadwinner with 3 kids. His When I first started working at Facebook, I was traveling so much for my work. So and because we don't really have a lot of family support, especially when I was in Sydney, right? Like we don't have the village, or what we call it, like, someone that you can just call on if I'm traveling somewhere and if you have like a normal job. So when we moved to Sydney, we did talk about like, okay, you might not find a job in Sydney. You have to be a stay-at-home dad for a little bit. And then we had 3 kids, so it took longer. He has some jobs here and there, but yeah, a lot. The main one is me, and it is sometimes, I guess, personally, it's really hard sometimes with us, especially when we're talking about, financial responsibility, etc., because all of those responsibilities sits, or majority of it will be sitting on me, and that gets, you get a lot of that stress and accountability. So yeah, it we're going to our 14-year wedding anniversary this November, and
Congratulations.
yeah, so it took us a few years before we both accepted our roles. Like we talked about it, but then, at the back of your mind, you still go to, oh, you're supposed to be the one supporting us. So, it's a man's job. And then you both pause again. Like, no, we've agreed on this. I'm quite not just, a risk taker, but, I'm a go-getter. Reach my goals. And the only way that I would be able to do that is if there's someone supporting me, at home. And he did that. But yeah, it's not easy. It wasn't.
How did you deal with, I don't know if this came up for you at all, but I imagine especially you said in the Philippines, it's not a common thing at all. And you're glad that you're not there whilst, this is the current circumstance. But how did you deal with like stigma or certain comments from people as they became acquainted with that situation?
Funny enough, I didn't actually hear anything from my family.
Great. That's what we want to hear.
I did hear about it here. So I went to a party when I first moved to Melbourne. I went to a party, and this guy introduced himself like quite like, I think he's around like mid-50s, right? Quite affluent. And he shaked his hand, and he's like, "Ooh, I see who wears the pants in this marriage." And then he left, and we were both like, "That is rude." But it's
That's just
the
rude.
only time, yeah. That is the only time that we've heard something like that. Um, so yeah, not yeah. Our family understands, our friends understands. Actually, a lot of my friends have that type of dynamic as well. I think we do stick together when you're all go getters. But yeah, so
Well, I think it's amazing. And based on everything you've told us in this short conversation, you're a go-getter, you're a risk taker, you have loved breaking the norm in your culture and what the typical path that was meant to be paved for you would have been, and you made it your own, and you really had your goals and you set them and you achieved them. So that's all incredible.
have a backup. Always have a backup.
Yeah. And it's so inspiring as well. That's the word I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nava represents the core values we explore in our podcast, and each letter of Nava stands for an essential aspect of personal and professional growth. And we've got a question for each of the letters. So N is for navigate, and I'd like for you to talk us through how you set clear goals. You talked about having a backup plan and being a go-getter, but how do you set those goals for you?
For me, setting all the goals that I've set, like every phase of my life, from I need to graduate to I need to work overseas to now I need to migrate or get on a top corporation, get a great job, like all of that. Um, what's the next step? What's my backup? How do I get there? But if I don't get there, what's my other plan?
I kind of saw like ladders as you were talking, and you're going from step to step to step, but then there's a ladder on either side with your backup plans. If you need to go to that route, then you step up, then go back to the first one. That's what I saw as you were talking.
Isn't it? Like but it still goes.
It's still going up. Yeah.
Yes.
So as part of our acronym, we've covered N for navigate. The next one is aspire. Are there particular role models or sources of inspiration that have helped you to get to where you are today?
I think my number one role model would probably be first my parents, because if we are not that, rich, or we are not poor like compared to the other people in the Philippines, but they were, because my mom has to actually, um, apply as a domestic helper in the Philippines in order to graduate university because they don't have enough, right? And they did that until all of them graduated university. And I think they're the only family where almost everyone graduated university, because where they came from, they just either, you have two choices. You either, be a fisherman or a farmer. But they cut ties on that one and then graduate university and be a professional. And then I think with the other, with the others, one of my managers, actually, when I was in a media agency, did support me a lot. And she's still my friend. And I guess looking at that, like as a leader, I just don't want to be seen as a manager. I want to be seen as, someone to be aspired to, and I did that because she did go up and one of their, and she fought for me in that company, because I remember she mentioned that I had the lowest salary of all of those, same title as me, because I don't have any experience. But she fought for me. She actually got me like, I think 150% increase.
Wow.
Which is the biggest increase that I've ever had, ever.
I think that might be the biggest increase anyone has ever seen.
Yeah, no, and you can see how the pay gap, because I'm also on the at that time the only woman in our team, so there's a big pay gap there. but also she's a woman. She understands, right? So I think for me, paying that forward and actually fighting for the people that I have managed, is one of the things that I am proud of. When people ask me, like, why do you want to be a manager? That being able to accomplish that and actually help people go higher, even if it's higher than me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think that's something everyone should aspire to do, to help others and inspire others and be the voice for those who need it and can't. And that's, I guess, a little bit about why we're doing Nava, because we want to celebrate and support other women, because there's still that gender inequality at the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
On a lighter note, V for value, how do you prioritize self-care and maintain that healthy work-life balance? Because it sounds like, and especially when you're in Singapore and even the Philippines, you just worked so hard.
Yeah, good question on that. So previously, I do believe in work-life balance.
Is this before kids?
Yes, but I realized as I turned 43 a week ago, that it's not work-life balance that what I'm aspiring for anymore. It's more, how can I do my job well but have more time with the family. So now I'm prioritizing the life and not balancing it. What for me is to afford the lifestyle that I want, but also not dropping the ball.
Yeah, that I like that. That's interesting. Who says it has to be 50-50?
It's hard. I don't believe that anymore. I previously believed it, but it's, you always prioritize your family, yourself.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, no, I don't know, what's that typical quote you hear? At the end of the day, work's not going to remember what you did, but it's your family. Whether you stayed late or not, your family's going to remember if you weren't home. Work won't. Yeah.
Well, Stella probably knows this better. Like, we're in sales. You're only going to be remembered by the last deal that you had. And that's forgotten already.
Yeah. It's so true. We could say a lot about that. The last one is A for achieve. Based on your own experiences, what practical steps, strategies, or advice would you suggest to our audience?
Be clear with your goals. I guess, if you know your goal, but if you I did experience this, where at one point I think I was like, I remember when I bought my first house, and I was like thinking, it's like, what else don't I have? I already have, at the time, one kid. I already have a great job. I've already migrated to Australia. What else? And then I keep changing my goal. And for me, that's the phase. It's actually lasted for, like, I think 3 years, where I don't know where to go. So if you're in that situation where you don't know what you want, stop and actually, just think about what you want and focus on it. Because having different mindset will not only confuse you, but also it will detract you from where you're going. It's like a detour, like a never ending detour. And that detour will only stop when you actually realize, like, actually, this is my goal and I now need to focus on it. And then that's when the detour stops, right? And then you're on that ladder, or you're on that road again. But yeah, that's how you achieve it. Be focused on something. And then if you really want it, do everything that you can to get it.
What would you say to young Gemma, 15-year-old Gemma now, if she could see everything that you've achieved?
I guess believe in yourself more. There's a lot of that. Like I feel like all my stories, like, it's very direct. Yes, there's backup, but I did it, one step at a time, and it's all like straight road ahead. But there's a lot of doubt, so much doubt, so much, questioning if you're doing the right thing. Like, oh, I'm resigning on this job. Why am I resigning on this job? Or why am I moving again? Like, why am I moving to Singapore? I already have, a great job back in the Philippines, which, I'm comfortable with. But yeah, I think it's more believe in yourself and believe in your goals, because it will happen one point or another.
This has been such a beautiful conversation. I have teared up a few times, one too many times in this chat, but it's really been heartwarming and beautiful. And thank you for being so raw and honest. It's been a real pleasure to be chatting with you. And I'm sure Leah, enjoyed it just as much as I did.
Yes, definitely. So inspiring. That's a wrap for this episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review.
And remember, you can always find more episodes and updates on our website and social media page. You can find us on Instagram at nava.podcast. Until next time,
keep chasing your dreams and making your mark on the world.